Tommy, wake up, Tommy. They're in the camp again.
Pacific Assault is the next-generation World War II game for the Medal of Honor franchise that attempts to put the player in the most authentic, realistic, and intense environments created to date. But to do that requires a massive amount of preparation and dedication from the development team.
It's entirely possible that
Taking over a year and a half, development of Medal of Honor Pacific Assault can be best broken down into three core components of production: pre-production, development, and finalization. Two major developments occurred with the decision to make Pacific Assault on the PC. The first decision was that the studio wanted to build new technology. The second decision was to move the game into the Pacific Theater of Operations. While engineers spent time creating the new core technology of the game, level designers, audio engineers, artists, and animators re-educated themselves in World War II as it occurred in the Pacific.
To drive over the coral reef, just like it was on land, gets back in the water, swims the rest of the way to the beach.
The environments of Europe, as depicted in previous versions of Medal of Honor, were to be swapped with the jungles and islands of the Pacific. The German Axis enemies were going to be replaced by Japanese soldiers and warriors. The most authentic World War II game involves studying and examination of not only the conflicts, but the events, location, and people that these conflicts have affected.
This black mark here, that was the water line. That's the staining of the oil in the oil fires on the Arizona. And this round circle down here was cut open during the rescue operations when they were trying to find survivors on the ship.
Machine gun squad, take your positions!
Working with the Nimitz Museum in Texas, details such as squad tactics were studied, photographed, and analyzed by engineers responsible for the AI in the game.
Pay attention to fire discipline. It's not smart to just blow them all out there and then sit there trying to figure out how to get more ammunition while somebody maneuvers on you and hammers you.
Military advisor Dale Dye was brought in to directly instruct the development team on the finer points of combat training and tactics used in many of the conflicts. This was then followed by an in-the-field session employing those tactics with the development team in a live environment. With the Pacific Theater being America's earliest involvement in World War II, it also represented some of the early weaponry produced by the U.S. and its effectiveness in jungle conflicts. The development team's weapons modeler and audio team were debriefed on the various types of weapons used in the conflicts.
At the start of the war, we were still carrying pretty old weapons. And one of those, the primary weapon of that was the Springfield 03, which you see right here.
Learning the intricacies of the weapon, firing, reloading, photographing, and recording each of them were all keys to ensuring that Pacific Assault's in-game weapons were the most authentic and realistic ever produced for the franchise. A new core component to Pacific Assault is the ability to fly an SBD Dauntless fighter plane. Our research into flight and aeronautics for the game took us to the Plains of Fame in Chino, California. Director Mark Foster showed many of the planes used in World War II, including the featured Dauntless plane in Pacific Assault. The SBD was photographed completely so that the modeler had all the information to build it correctly for the game both inside and out.
I can't take this guy! Danny, I'm bringing him past your rear, over!
The development process for Pacific Assault consists of multiple disciplines: art, animation, audio, engineering, design, and production, constantly meeting to discuss the intricacies of development.
So the muzzle flash is fixed.
Like a full-fledged animation feature, the animators meet for dailies, a review process which in-game animation and cinematics are critiqued and complemented. At a physical point in production, various disciplines are then merged into sub-teams to tackle the levels as a group. Designers of the levels lead the way in visualizing what is still needed to achieve the full potential of each level. Whether it's audio, art, some new effects, or new animations, this is where the final polishing goes into a level.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, not a problem, Gunny. Just wondering why everyone knows that Tommy's the hero of the group. Hey, you know what? What about me? Remember that one guy in that tree I potted?
Clear! Exit it back!
Towards the end of development, production then works to finalize issues and put the finishing touches on the game.
Paying courtesy calls on WAWAC and ITAP.
Footage for in-game movies is attained by the National Archives in Washington, D.C. and exhaustively reviewed.
Right. It's an indication of dirt, but it's not really.
I think it gets lost. I think we're better with a lot of these, like there's, see these splotches and stuff here. Those things I think pop all the more.
The game is then opened up to various partners to best see how to cross-promote the game and maximize exposure outside the normal channels of software distribution. All of this effort is to ensure that the product itself has proper exposure when it's released to the public and that Pacific Assault has an awareness factor upon its release. From pre-production to development to finalization of the game, this is Medal of Honor Pacific Assault.